In this video, I'm going to show you how it's possible to make millions of dollars trading prop firms while having absolutely zero edge. But before we dive in and I show you the math, please like and subscribe to the channel so we can share this great information with more traders and help them get funded. Now let's dive in. So, starting off, I don't know if you guys saw this, but a few months ago there was a gentleman who actually had his pet chicken trade and get funded with prop firms. And essentially here, as you can see, he put food in different buckets and effectively had his chicken decide what trades to take. I don't think this chicken was a trading genius, but what this experiment was meant to illustrate was that even with true randomness, it is possible to get paid and pass prop firm challenges. Essentially, you could replace the chicken with flipping a coin and you can still make money. So what I'm trying to illustrate here and what we're going to prove mathematically is that because prop firms themselves present such a positive expected value, being like essentially the difference between how much you pay for an account and how much you can get paid, even if your trading is totally random, as long as you stick to a system, you can still make money. So that's really why prop firms present such an incredible edge, and why, in theory, if you spend enough money on challenges, you can make millions of dollars despite having absolutely zero edge, just by playing the probabilities of how prop firms work. So instead of me just talking to you, I'm going to prove this to you using math and using different macros. What we can see here is first how we're going to illustrate the concept of how your win rate will change based on your risk reward. So imagine we have a perfectly random environment and we have price right here in the middle. This is when we're entering our trade, and we have a take profit $10 away and we have a stop loss $10 away. I can move this up here. Stop loss $10 away. Assuming we have zero edge, how often should we hit the take profit? How often should we hit the stop loss? Logically, 50% of the time we're going to hit the TP and 50% of the time we're going to hit the stop loss, right? Because alternatively, if we were to hit the TP 60% of the time, we have an edge. If we were to hit the stop loss 60% of the time, we would just flip our buy and sell button and we would have an edge. So if you have a random scenario, under a random scenario with no edge, you should converge towards break even. And in that case, because here our take profit and our stop loss are roughly equal, our break-even win rate would be 50%. So therefore, we're going to hit the top 50%, we're going to hit the bottom 50%. One of the easiest tricks that various MQL5 developers do to give you a super high win rate is you just use a tiny take profit and a massive stop loss. Because mathematically, once again, we're going to converge towards break-even. So if you change the levels at which you take profit and you have a stop loss, you are going to converge towards whatever that break-even win rate would be. In this example, if our take profit is $10 and our stop loss is $90, we're going to automatically have a break-even win rate of 90%, meaning we have to have 9 take profits to account for 1 stop loss hit. So in a truly random scenario, so no edge, we are going to hit the take profit over enough trades, over thousands and thousands of trades, 90% of the time. So essentially what this is meant to illustrate is that if we have zero edge, so if we have a chicken or if we're flipping a coin, our win rate should be whatever the break-even win rate would be. That is your takeaway from these slides. So now let's go into our beautiful prop firm speed passing calculator. So this is a little calculator which I developed for our prop firm bundle users, which show us how quickly, effectively, should we pass or fail a prop challenge given the amount of risk we're using, and what percentage of the prop challenges should we pass or fail. So here we can take some of the statistics from the previous presentation and input them into this little calculator. So first of all, we can look at what type of challenge are we trading. We can see that we are indeed trading a one step because we need to make 10% to pass, and we will fail if we hit 6%. We are going to be trading a system here with a 2-to-1 risk reward, and we are going to be risking 2% per trade. So what should our win rate be? If we take these metrics, usually in our prop bundle, this number here should be close to 50% because we have very good EAs. However, if we have a chicken, we are going to take whatever the break-even win rate would be. So if you have no edge and we're trading a 2-to-1 risk reward, we would have a 33% break-even win rate. Makes sense, right? Because you're going to need 2 wins in order to, you're going to need 2 losers to cover 1 win, or 1 win will cover 2 losers. Therefore, we only need to be right 33% of the time because 1 win will cover 2 losers. Therefore, our break-even win rate, so our win rate assuming true randomness, is going to be 33%. What we're going to do here is we're going to model a series of trades. So trades 1, trade 2, trade 3. We have a random number generator here. Let me just do F9, which will show us essentially, based on the win rate, what is our sequence of wins and losers going to be. And then in this column here, we're going to show whether or not we're going to fail or pass based on the word which appears first. Essentially what we're doing is we're stacking cumulative R's. So we can see here that based on a sequence of winners and losers, what is our sequence or our cumulative sequence of percentage points going to be. In this case, we can see that we have loss, win, loss, 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 and we fail the account. But if we run enough random permutations here, we can see that here we are failing a fair amount because we have no edge, but we do still pass a decent amount. So even if we're totally random, we can sometimes have a nice run of winners despite having zero edge and still pass. So what this thing will now do is it's going to run 100 different permutations and show us, based on this system with zero edge, where we have a break-even win rate and a 2-to-1 risk reward, what's going to happen. So here we were unlucky, we only passed 30%, but if we run a different series of permutations, we should then be able to see, oh, now here we went about and passed 40%, because we're only running 100 trials here, so we're not going to converge, we're going to be somewhere around 33%, of pass rate. However, we would need to run more trials in order to get something which truly converges towards the expected value. The law of large numbers is not fully kicking in yet. But just for all intents and purposes, let's say it's going to be around 35%. It should be around 33%. So this goes to show that even if we have zero edge, we're still going to pass around 33% of our challenges. And if we're lucky, we might pass 40%, just because our coin might have a hot streak. And that is essentially why a chicken can still get funded. Because just based on your sequence of winners and losers, and if you're risking a relatively aggressive amount, and if you're doing enough prop firm challenges, you will pass some. So that's why certain prop passing companies can guarantee a pass, because even if you have zero edge, if you just do enough, you will effectively pass. The real magic comes if you do have an edge, so that's why our win rate here would be around 50%. And then we can see that like your statistics change massively, and then you start to have a really, really good system, because now you're having a 77% pass rate. Even at a 40% win rate, you still have some really good results. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is a chicken can still get funded just based on a sequence of winners and losers and a hot streak which can go in its favor, despite it having zero edge. So that's what this was meant to illustrate. So now let's go to the second interesting point. Can you actually make any money with this? And the answer is absolutely. So let's bring over our second little tool here, which goes to show what our ROI calculator is. And this is essentially modeling like, hey, we are going to be starting a new prop challenge every single week. And it's going to be taking us roughly one and a half weeks to pass, given these statistics, pass and or fail. So what will our cash flow look like if we pass using this aggressive 2% risk per trade with a 33% win rate? And then we massively scale down our capital to, massively scale down our risk to 1% once passed. So there's a lot of numbers here, so I apologize for the complexity. Please drop me a comment if you want me to clarify anything. But effectively what I'm trying to illustrate is that here we can see a sequence of passed and or failed accounts. We can see that using this 33% pass rate, we're still going to pass a reasonable amount of accounts, roughly 33%. We can then see that if we're passing these accounts, and here we are looking at $50,000 accounts which cost roughly $300 after a discount, but $400 retail, what does our cumulative passed AUM look like? And this pretty much shows that even with a pretty abysmal pass rate and the fact that we are going to still be failing accounts, we are ultimately building a certain amount of prop firm capital. Because just if we are running enough, we're going to essentially accumulate them. And here there are periods where it stagnates because we are passing some, but we're also failing some. So at the same time, we're kind of like our AUM is shifting. And then if we do that, even if we take some of these accounts once they're passed and we run them at 1% risk with only 33% of them actually not being lost, we still slowly but surely build up our cash flow, where our average weekly cash flow ends up in $2,500 a week on average. Granted, some weeks will be negative, some weeks will be positive, or not negative. Some weeks will be zero cash flow, some will be positive. But it goes to show that even if you have a true random system, because you can still pass enough prop firm challenges, if you start enough and you just constantly trade them in a way where you reduce the risk once passed, you will essentially get payouts. So that is the main takeaway from this video, that even if you have a truly break-even system, you can still make money with prop firms just because you can still pass roughly whatever the break-even win rate would be, which in this case will be 33%. And once you start trading them, provided you're trading enough of them, some of them will give you payouts and you will make money. So that's essentially what this model here is meant to prove. And once again, where the real magic comes into is if we can pass 65%, and once we pass, we shift our risk to 0.5, and if you are risking 0.5% with a real edge, you should then be able to keep 90% of those accounts once passed, and that's when our cash flow gets more than triple. So that goes to show that yes, you can pass with no edge, but you're probably a lot better off having an edge. So guys, this was a very complex video, so I hope that I was somewhat clear and that you're now able to see that prop firms themselves present a massive EV, and that EV can help you do exceptionally well. So if you combine that with an edge, you can make some really amazing returns on prop firms just because of the opportunity which they present. So if you're interested in learning more about this and having access to all of these tools, please sign up for a trial of our prop firm bundle, where I'm happy to send over access to all of this and you can see for yourself. Guys, cheers.